expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
What? Why are we here? Who am I? Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins. Every night. No, that's the old intro. My name is Adrian Goins, and I am thrilled to be here with you, even though there was no sound. The purpose of this show is to share with you news and content related to Kubernetes and Cloud Native, and to build a community of people who are interested in using technology to live a better life. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel. If you're watching a replay, give the video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. And join the free community site in the Discord server. Links are in the video description, or they'll be scrolling across the bottom of the screen, which actually goes this way because I'm in reverse. Live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays between YouTube and Twitch, so come hang out with us either during the show or after. And as you'll see in a moment, the chat is where the real action happens. Hey, so we've got lots of people in the chat this morning. We've got Peter saying you already hit the like button. Thank you very much, Peter. Nuno's here. Why the universe? Why the universe what? I don't understand the question. Good morning, Ian. Peter, good morning. Brendan, hey. James, Clint. Scrolling back. Bala, hello. Smalls. Lots of people here. Chrysalis, good morning. Wifebot, of course, joining from the other room. Talking about this dog that we had invade the property last night. We were, like when you're falling asleep, you're like just about to fall asleep, but you still think you're awake in your brain. So I hear this like tick-a-tack, tick-a-tack, tick-a-tack on the deck outside the window, and I like ear perks up, and it's repeatable enough that I'm like, we have a dog intruder. Turned out it was this enormous Samoyed, enormous, and it didn't want to leave the property. But we have two very fierce dogs, and they did their job, and now he's gone. So we have much stuff to do today. First of all, quick news thing. There are now going to be espresso shot tweets. So if you follow me on Twitter, well, if you don't follow me on Twitter, please follow me on Twitter. If you do, you've seen that throughout the day, other than the first 2 days of this week, I send out links to the stuff that I talk about on the show with a link to the timestamp of where it gets talked about. Today, anything that didn't make it on the show but was a candidate for the show will actually come after as a CNCN espresso shot. So you can get access and check out the things that just we didn't have time for. In addition, the website, zoom, whoa, super zoom. The website will now have the coffee rating next to each of the items, in addition to the tweets. So you can see how the items were rated, and you can use that to decide what you may or may not want to go look for. So that's, if it's something that didn't make it on the show, it'll be Trufflebot's rating. If it did make it on the show, it'll be the community rating, so that, it's an actual reflection of how all of you liked the stuff. And now, we have a new segment. Continuous inspiration. We need every bit of positivity that we can possibly have in this day and age. Right now, whether you believe in it or not, we are all under a tremendous amount of stress. And because our animal brains are simple, they respond to the presence of stress chemicals by assuming that there is a threat. Now, granted, there is and are a number of threats, but it looks for a threat in the immediate environment. Where's the tiger that's going to eat me? And if it can't find it, then it just begins to assume that things are a threat. Well, if I can't look at it, it must be hidden, so it must be that person over there, or this task I was just given at work, or something. The way to combat this is not with logic. The way to combat this is with positive energy. So we are a community here, and I would like to reinforce that by elevating people who are in the community. So this is going to take a number of different forms, depending on how much content I get. One of them is, yesterday I posted in the community site, what's one challenge you overcame last week and what helped you face it? These are gonna go out on Tuesdays, and they're designed to get the community to talk about positive experiences. Somebody that you know who did something amazing, and you don't have to tell who, but just share what it is so that our brains begin to So we remind our brains that there's a lot of good going on in the world. If you like the community, and we have 160 some odd members who do, share it with other people. Post about it on Twitter or LinkedIn with your personal invite link. If you come to members, you can click invite and you can actually get a link down here. So if you copy that and you send that out to other people, people can just join without having to do the knock to enter thing. Share it. Let's get other people in there. And if you're already in the community, please add a bio. One of the other things that I'll be doing is picking random people who've joined, looking at their bios, and introducing them to everybody who are here, just randomly. As you can see, we have a lot of people with bios and a lot of people who don't. So please add a bio. And this will also help in a segment coming up later on this week, where you will all be encouraged to meet somebody random and then come back and tell the rest of us about who they are so that we can start to build the relationships within the community and understand who's here from what discipline or practice or skill set or what they want to learn, and we can all start to help each other out. Since I don't have a lot of internal community promotion stuff from today, I will also use this moment to talk about things that have come up from the community itself. And for that, we have 2 items. First is an item that was shared by Mac, who shared with me Monday, I think it was, about a new Kubernetes dashboard, but more than a dashboard. And this is from Kinvolk. We're seeing a lot of announcements this week because it's KubeCon. And this is great. The best review of this was that Lens totally crushes his desktop when he tries to use it. I haven't used Lens for obvious reasons, but that he found this to be a lot friendlier. So this is from Kinvolk. It's called Headlamp. Get it? Headlamp. Shine a light into your cluster. See what's going on. And it's really cool because it's extensible with JavaScript plugins. So the community who grows around this can build their own tools to do additional things that it needs to do. Granted, you probably want to vet the JavaScript that you're running before you just randomly run stuff, but hopefully they've got some structure for that built in. And so they give an example here of a trace loop gadget. So this records all syscalls from a pod into a ring buffer. It can be seen in real time as the pod is running, allowing a lens, get it, into what the pod is doing right now, but also saved for terminated pods. So operators can see what caused a crash after it happens, sort of like a flight data recorder. That's an amazing feature to have in a Kubernetes dashboard. And it's just an example. It actually comes from another project that they have called Inspector Gadget. Which we've never had on the show, and I know nothing about. So perhaps I'll save that for another day. So take a look at this. It looks beautiful. Oh, and it also runs, you have your choice. Do you want to run it as a desktop app, or do you want to run it in cluster? They point out that there are advantages to both. You know, desktop, you've got it on your desktop, so it's faster. In cluster, it's accessible everywhere. But some people prefer one over the other. And then it even has multi-cluster support. Kinvolk apparently has a Kubernetes distribution. Who doesn't have a Kubernetes? My mom doesn't have a Kubernetes distribution. She's still working on her service mesh. We got to get her a Kubernetes. Momernetes? That's probably what it's going to be called. Momernetes? Ah, there you go. If you have a better idea for my mom's Kubernetes distribution name, post it in the chat. Nuno just said that Kinvolk team are really nice and great. They are. They've done some collaborative stuff with Rancher, and there's this energy that I get from certain companies where certain companies are aggro and certain companies are timid. And then there are certain companies who just project confidence. And they're like, yeah, we're just doing our thing. Like, you know, we think this is valuable. So if you like it, use it. If you don't, don't. And, you know, no shame, no hate, no nothing. Kinvolk is in the confident category. Plus their stuff just feels very solid. And I like that. So check out Headlamp. It's free and open source. There's no reason not to take it for a spin. The next thing that we have from the community today is actually, I almost put this in what's going to be Throwback Thursday, which is tomorrow. But because they just made the announcement and they're at KubeCon, I wanted to put it on the show for today. And this is actually a press release, which makes it pretty boring. But we'll get past the boring part in a second. The information is actually not boring. Last KubeCon in August, I did a CNCN from KubeCon show, which I'm not doing this time just because I have enough workload getting content as it is, but I just grabbed a bunch of random sponsors from KubeCon and did a CNCN show about their stuff. Trilio was one of those. They have a backup solution for Kubernetes called TrilioVault. And they just released a version 2.0 of it. Let me see if I can get to the actual webpage for it. It's more interesting than the press release. TrilioVault will run beautiful backups of your Kubernetes cluster. What more is there to say? But in the version 2.0, and actually for that, I'm going to jump back to the press release. In the 2.0, they have some fantastic features. So namespace backup. Let's see. First of all, new TrilioVault. So discovery of Kubernetes applications, clusters, and namespaces. A discovery component is great. Intuitive management of backup and restore plans in real time in multiple clouds. Also sounds pretty great. Simple workflows for managing application consistent backups and reconfiguring restore data. You kind of want that in a backup solution. The ability to migrate application data and metadata to other clouds, which enables application agility. Also pretty amazing. And monitoring of overall health and performance metrics in an application summary. Wonderful. Now this is all available from their new TrilioVault management console. Additional enhancements for Kubernetes, ability for customers to protect and migrate all applications and data within a specific namespace. And they say that this is great for those of us who do a one-to-one mapping between namespace and application. It's certified for Rancher Server with RKE, in addition to EKS, GKE, OpenShift, and upstream Kubernetes. Database support, so you can run backup operations against your database before and after backups or restore operations, certified against Cassandra, Mongo, and MySQL. Enhanced multi-cloud migration, enhanced Kubernetes application support. They've put a lot into this 2.0. And although, I mean, everybody has, these are companies who exist, they have to make money. So Trilio has a free trial of all functionality, or they have a lifetime free basic edition for up to 10 nodes. Pick the one that's right for you. If you have a larger environment, go for the enterprise, but you can spin it all up and take it for a test drive for free. And if you're somebody like me who runs a small cluster just for personal reasons, there's still no reason not to use it. Oh, Nuno wants to know, this is not A/B test. This was, well, okay, so I don't actually have this would have a transition from the community, but I didn't have time to put one of those together. But since you're asking, Nuno, it is now time for the next segment. The A/B test. TruffleBot has scored today's candidates from 1 to 5 coffees, corresponding to a 75 to 100% probability of being interesting content. He posts these to the A/B test channel on Discord, and we discuss them in live chat or here on the show. All of you get to vote. Final rating is shown when we move to the next item, and then the total ratings for all items shown on the show is used to rate the show itself, and in the future will be used to refine the machine learning model. Now, yesterday, Duck pointed out that there's a 10-second lag between when I say stuff and when you hear it, but there's an instantaneous 0-second lag on the A/B test voting. So while you see stuff that's up there, vote as quickly as you can, because you're probably still going to hear me talking when the vote ends. I'll fix TruffleBot or change it so that, well, whatever. For today, it is what it is. Let's get started. First up. This is good. I'm glad this turned up. TruffleBot pulls 15 items, sorts them, well, sorts all the items, pulls the top 15, and then shuffles them. And we only tend to get through, we'll only get through like 5 to 6 of them today, tops. And this was one that I think is really important. It has nothing to do with Kubernetes or cloud native, but it is about something that's very dear to my heart, which is learning. This is an article that explains that work is learning and learning is work. If you are in a management position, please make time for your employees to learn new skills and grant them permission to do so. Don't force them to do that outside of work, because what you'll find is that they'll learn new skills and then they'll just go work somewhere else. Reward them for developing themselves, and they will in turn reward your organization. If you are a person who works in a place that doesn't have that structure, talk to your manager about it. But even if they can't structure it largely, talk to your manager about what you need and ask them to allow you to set aside some period of time every single day or once a week. I prefer every single day, so that you can learn and practice new skills. Doing that in a focused form tells your brain, we're learning now, and it gives your brain the freedom to store the information better. Beyond that, this article points out that learning, where are some of these statistics? So people who make learning a regular priority have healthier brains and stave off age-related cognitive and memory decline. Yeah, it's called neuroplasticity. Exercising your brain, but not by like doing Sudoku or whatever, Sudoku, I don't know how it's pronounced. Actually learning stuff maintains the neural connections that allow your brain to stay healthy and young. Lifelong learners are more engaged, enriched, and self-fulfilled. And learning, especially for older adults, promotes happiness and a decline in depression and other mental illness. Take care of your brain. Learn new stuff. Every single day, I try to learn something that I didn't know the day before, and if I haven't done that, I can't go to sleep. Like I have to learn something. Voting is closing. Voting is closing. Voting is closed. Edge, next big battleground. This article talks about databases and how, as we see a proliferation of edge technology, some sort of data storage solution is going to be required. You can't be schlepping data back to the cloud or even to whatever your fog edge thing, I don't know what it's called, when you need to make real-time decisions. Certainly there's MongoDB, and they have, of course, they've got to talk about 5G, because 5G is going to boost what the network can do. And as you push more decision-making down to the edge, where are you going to store that data? What's the conclusion that they draw? I've read this, and I don't remember their conclusion. All right, so essentially, you need, there it was here. Hang on a second. And I'm out of time in remembering what this was about. Okay. Yes, here we go. So they talked to Actian, and if you've been in the Unix space for any length of time, you remember B-tree. So B-tree has a 4 to 7 megabyte footprint, but can hold up to 64 terabytes of data. This was their proposal for figuring out and using or testing lightweight, super performant edge style databases. This is going to open up a whole bunch of other questions around, data redundancy, and maybe your local database is just a staging point for something that moves it back. But how do you handle if somebody pulls the plug or turns off their car, or something terrible happens? Probably not where you want to be storing long-term data, but certainly good for storing short-term data and also acting as an intermediate point for different edge devices to be able to communicate and respond to what each other are doing. Voting is closing. I'm going to stop saying that. I considered punting this to next week's release recap, but since we had them on the show so recently, I thought I would, put it up. Plus, it's KubeCon week, so all the announcements. It makes sense to get them out there. Kubevious, this cool little dashboard thing that does cool application consolidation representations of stuff, has a new 0.7 release. They've redesigned the DB schema, redesigned the Helm charts. They now have an alerts tool window to include alerts for the entire hierarchy. And you can group alerts by the objects as well as by the alert. There's a config pop-up, and the time machine UI allows better zooming and focusing. One of the coolest things about Kubernetes is their time machine, where they record the history of things so that even if something crashes, you can look back in time to figure out why something died or was restarted. Apparently they fixed a bunch of issues as well. I have not deployed this since my initial test deployment, but I'll spin it back up and take it for a drive. Oh, this is a lightweight item. OVH Cloud now has Kubernetes 1.19. The rest of this article is about the value of Kubernetes 1.19, but if you use OVH or if you are looking for an alternative cloud provider, we were having a discussion in the chat the other day about DigitalOcean versus Linode. We were also having a discussion about needing to store like the whole new Schrems 2, the GDPR revision stuff actually being designed to push people towards European cloud providers for hosting their infrastructure. And I don't actually know where OVH is. Are they in Europe? Somebody's probably telling me in the chat that they're in Europe. Well, that's their blog. I see nothing in the chat window. OVH.ie? Oh yeah, okay. So they're in Europe. So if you are looking for an alternative cloud provider, perhaps they're good. You can run Kubernetes 1.19. I would be interested to know, and I'm actually going to jump back over to the live chat, if anybody uses OVH and how you like them. You don't necessarily have to tell us, yes, OVH is based in France, Alex Dorr just asked. I recognize the French flag up at the top of the screen there. So yeah, if they're good, tell us, tell us in the chat or in the comments on the video later or something like that. Now I must go vote. How valuable is this? Next, ooh. When I was a kid, I really liked cryptography. I liked codes. I liked learning about the evolution of cryptography from basic ciphers to the complexity of the Enigma type machines in World War II. And then of course, I'm an adult. I haven't looked at cryptography other than my day-to-day interactions with it since that time. This popped up, and granted, it's a little old. It's from September, but it's an explanation of cryptography for programmers. If you're a programmer, cool. If you're not, it's still really cool. Excuse me for a moment. It talks about analysis done by Columbia University's Crylogger, an open source dynamic analysis tool that detects cryptographic vulnerabilities. And all of the analyzed apps broke at least one of their chosen 26 crypto rules. Did you know that there were 26 crypto rules? It's like the crypto commandments. And here they are. Don't use broken hash functions. Don't use broken encryption algorithms. And scrolling down, like don't use java.util.random because it's an unsafe pseudo-random number generator. We used to run an entropy gathering machine on Solaris boxes because they didn't have enough data in the pool, enough random data for cryptography. So you'd make a connection to something like a SSH or a SSL endpoint, and it would just hang while waiting for entropy. That was all super cool too, like grabbing all this pseudo-random, difficult to repeat data like keystrokes on the keyboard. But apparently, these 26 rules, as obvious as they are quite frequently broken. Like don't roll your own crypto, avoid unnecessary complexity, rubber hose cryptography, only the key should be a secret. This is part one of a 3-part article. That doesn't make any sense at all. This is part one of a 3-part series of articles that at this point has been completed. So cryptography for programmers, getting more into blocks and randomness and symmetric versus asymmetric encryption. This is very accessible information that will help anybody understand what you're dealing with here. And cryptography today is still, well, I was going to say still extremely important. It's more important than ever for lots of reasons. Yeah, so there's part 3 from October 13th. Great article series. And yeah, maybe I'll make some codes. I did a cool thing with WifeBot where I made a cipher thing, and it was like a treasure hunt. So I hid a note somewhere I put a note that she could find, but then it had a clue she had to figure out that was the location of the next note, which had a clue that she had to decode, and it was just like a series of puzzles that in the end linked to some prize. And that was really fun. It's actually fun if you have kids. You can do that with your kids too. We don't have kids, so we have to do what we can do with each other. Okay. Oh, wow. Very popular article. That is the end of this particular segment, giving us an average show rating of 4 coffees. Hooray for machine learning. It seems that Trufflebot's doing good. And now that takes us to the next segment. Tool of the day. Usually tool of the day takes me directly to a GitHub repo, but I thought I would start with this. This is actually, what it is cool, but the way that he wrote the article is also cool. Basically, he wanted to learn about Kubernetes controllers, and so he built a controller to do something that he needed to do. Awesome. So awesome. Learning by doing reinforces associations. So what he built is called the nsinjector. And it's a custom resource. This will match namespaces to a pattern. And if the namespace matches a pattern, it will do something. It will deploy resources that are included in the CRD. So first he goes and installs the controller, hooray, and then here's the YAML for the injector itself. So for example, anything that matches dev-star, so dev-whatever, any development namespace, is going to automatically deploy this role and role binding into the namespace. But it can be any Kubernetes manifest. So it's just a list of resources that get applied. And now, when they create a new namespace, boom, those things get done. It's automation. If you deal with common namespaces for dev and staging, you can use this for scaffolding, you can use this with CI/CD, and of course, like everything, it's free and open source, and it does have a GitHub repo, which I will take us out to. Oh, look at that, he has a Helm chart for it too. That's nice. nsinjector. And yes, I know we need to get Trufflebot to allow you to vote on the tool of the day as well. That's coming. It's coming. You don't trust me. So here's nsinjector. I thought it was great. So it's the tool of the day. Quick check of the chat before we go. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, man. So somebody, Small said he did the code thing with his daughter last year. He used a speak and spell code decode game to get birthday gift clues. It's so much fun to make those kinds of things, and then so much fun to go through them with the person that you made them for. Deploy stuff match. So Noel says hierarchical namespaces solves this. The HNC controller, and then they're asking how far along is hierarchical namespaces. Hierarchical namespaces, maybe it does, but when we had the HNC on the show earlier, that was more like cluster within cluster type thing, whereas this is just deploying resources into a namespace when the namespace is created. So it's more of an automation thing. Okay, and Zerlgi asks how far along is hierarchical namespaces. It was... See if I still have it in my history here. Hierarchical namespace controller. So it is functional enough. Not yet GA. Please be cautious on using it in clusters with config objects that you can't afford to lose. But it says if you use GetOps, then go crazy. Because if it blows your stuff up, so what? All right. So that is all for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Links to everything that I talk about on the show go up in the free community site at community.cncn.io after the show ends. Come join us. Community members get early access to the links, video replay, and other exclusive content. It's free to join, and it's growing every day. For those of you who are watching, if you're already in the community, please invite other people that you think would benefit from the show, from the content, from the stuff. If you have something that you'd like for me to consider for the show, hit me up and let me know. You can hit me in a post in the community, or you can ping me on Discord or on Twitter. I'm all over the place. It's all down there. Have a great day, everyone. Keep learning. I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinated.